So we're here again working on Slick Rick. Today we're gonna mess with the wastegates a little bit, see how far we can get. It's usually pretty straightforward getting wastegates on any setup. It's just deciding where to put them that's gonna look the best and function the best. Obviously putting them in the outside of a bend will probably let them see the most exhaust pulses and let them work the easiest, but sometimes you don't have that option. So in this case we're going to put them in this straight run right here, kind of right there. I want to do that because I can put them in that same general location in both sides. So when you look at it from the front, everything will be laid out really nice. And that's my ultimate goal with every setup, is to make it visually pleasing to the eye. So starting out, when I put wastegates on, it's not rocket science. You're just trying to fit the pipe to the other pipe. But with something coming off a straight run like that, the easiest way to do is just to take a straight piece of pipe, take it over on the bandsaw or the cutoff wheel or whatever, and just cut a straight miter cut on it. If any of y'all have watched the Tim McAmis videos and stuff, he puts it pretty blunt that a notch is pretty much just a miter cut with a little bit of radius on both corners. It's not that complex to do. So when you're doing a pipe off of a straight run like this, the easiest way is to just miter cut it, leave a little bit of the radius here left, and obviously you're not going to have any there much, but you can see it fits pretty dang good for not even touching it with a sander yet. So what we're going to do is hit this inside corner. We're going to make those inside, or yeah, these corners a little bit wider than what they are, where it sinks down on the pipe a little bit further, and try to close this gap on the side. Once we get this gap closed on the side, then we'll do the other side. Do the same thing. Once we get both pipes the length we want, I usually go ahead and weld them to the wastegate flange completely, and then I will I'll probably get Cody back there or somebody to hold them, and I'll tack them onto the pipe where they're going to go, and then I will carry them over to the bench and mark around them with a marker. That I sometimes do that because sometimes you can't get in there to mark really good with a marker, and it's better just to take it over to the bench, tack it to the pipe without cutting the hole, and trace around it, know exactly what you're dealing with there, then cut the hole, then put it back on your traced out spot and get it welded on. So let's start. Let's see how much we can get done today. Well, after a bunch of sanding, I got it fit the way I want now. Pretty good all the way around. So there you go. I'll go over there now and hold the wastegate up, kind of get an idea of what type of length I need to cut off that, and then we'll be ready to put the flange on. we're back over here on the car, and I've took the dump pipe off this gate, and I've got my I guess your wastegate inlet tube made, what you call it. With this miter, this fish mouth, it's pretty big, so it should be pretty strong as far as holding the weight. That thing weighs a pretty good bit, but we always put gussets and stuff on them, but that's probably the most vulnerable spot on the hot side is the wastegate, because of the valve opening and shutting and just the vibration it feels right there. So let me hang on a second, put the camera down just 1 second. I'll rotate this back where I had it. All right, so I'm using this one stub for both sides mock-up, talking back and forth with the guys at LS Nasty, deciding exactly what they want. But I think pretty much the wastegate is going to go right there. I was going to put it on the bottom like that, but when I do, to get it lined up with the pipe without making a really funky notch, it's to kind of point inward. I don't really like that. I'd like it to point outward, just kind of square with the front like this. Plus, doing it like this gets this outlet on the outside of the frame rail instead of trying to go in here. Because remember, we're going to have an oil scavenge pump in there, and some stuff is going to be in the way. So the dump pipes, I would love to be on the outside of the frame rail. So I think this is where we're going to end up with it. And then on the other side, it'll be upside down, me showing you, but the other side, it'll be kind of right there. Just imagine the gate pointed down. Obviously I can't rotate it unless I set the camera back down. So I've sent all those pictures to them, waiting on their approval, and if they like it, we're gonna roll with it. I like it, but after a little cold pipe incident, I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So just waiting on them. Okay, they got back with me and we're good to go on this location. You can see I talked about tacking them on here first and then marking it to cut the hole over on the bench, but that will also help you kind of eyeball where the other one is, or measure where the other one is, to make them look, if you're trying to make them look symmetrical on both sides as far as their location, that'll help you also. So what I've done here, I just put 2 small little tacks. I actually tacked it up and had to break it off and reposition it a little bit, but it's just hanging there on those 2 tacks. So now I can position the other one where it looks pretty similar to this one before I cut holes or anything, without having to take stuff on and off the car 50 times. I can just do it all in one step. So now I'm gonna go over here and cut my stub for the other wastegate and get it fit on the pipe where I want it, and then we'll be ready to take it all apart and take it over on the bench and cut the hole, which I'll show you what I do for that. might have noticed in some of the other videos or other video clips that I use aluminum foil on the vise. That's so I don't scratch up the pipe, if anybody's wondering about that. The only part that kind of sucks about using it is, for some reason on the corners here, it will try to ground, even though you've got a good ground of the table. If I lay my hand on the corner like that, it will light me up through my glove. It won't really shock me, but it'll burn me. It's like it's sitting there arcing continually out the corner of that vise, and it just does it on the corners when you put aluminum foil on there. But I use it a lot to keep from scratching the stuff. When I welded the flange on there, I also used it. So that's a good little tip for that. See, I've got these marked all the way around where I'm going to cut, what I'm going to use. We got a little Everlast plasma here. I think it is. It's the 51P. So I'll usually, I don't turn it all the way up. I actually keep it turned just about all the way down, because if you don't, what it'll do, it'll blow slag inside the pipe, and it's really hard to get that off. If it was on the end where I was doing the wastegates, I could put, like, for instance, if this was stainless or something, I'd put it up in the pipe. If I was cutting the wastegate hole like right here, I'd put it in the pipe, and that would serve as like a barrier to catch some of that slag, and then I could just pull the pipe out and throw it in the trash, and I wouldn't have as much stuff stuck to the inside of the pipe. Usually I can put a drum sander or a flapper sander on an extended die grinder and get down in there and smooth the pipe back up. But if it's really hot and that stuff really melts in, sometimes it's really hard to get it back smooth. So if you're going to use plasma, keep it turned down a good bit. That way you're just barely cutting through the stainless here and not blowing a bunch of slag on the inside of the pipe on the opposite side. So we're going to start cutting. I got another car being dropped off here in a minute, so try to get these cut out before they show up. Okay, what we've done is open up the holes, smooth them out with the sanding wheel. The first thing we did is go on the inside of the pipe And you remember how I said it gets some slag on the inside of the pipe with the plasma cutter? It did with this because I had it turned up probably a little bit too much, but I want it to cut smooth. I don't want it to struggle to cut. So a little bit of slag on the inside of the pipe. So you notice I took this extended die grinder, a little flapper wheel on the end of it, and got in there and slicked up the inside of the pipe really good. Then our mark that we made right around the edge of the pipe right here, you can see the black mark is sanded right up to that. And I always use this one that's just about done. This is a Christmas tree is what we call it. Little stones. They're usually about out to my finger long, but this one is had a rough life. Use that to grind out. I don't use a carbide or anything like this is a little one on the end of this one, but I wouldn't even use a big one like that because something about the carbide burrs, it just heats up the stainless, and once it gets glowing red right there where you're grinding, it's like it hardens it and it makes it even tougher to get, and plus it hits a certain frequency that might make your ears bleed. So the stone is the way to go on this. And when you grind, you might have noticed in the video I was going in and out, in and out, in and out as I ground. That keeps the stainless cooled off, plus it wears your stone evenly. So it takes more material off of the stainless whenever you do that versus just sitting in one spot and trying to go around. It's just like anything, if you can keep the temperature down in the material and what's cutting it, even if it's a stone, it'll cut a lot better. So these are cleaned up, they're cut out. This one here, where's that? There it is. That one's cleaned out as well and ready to weld the pieces on here that we've got. We got that one, and then we got this one. everything's welded up as far as the hot pipe goes. I think everything turned out pretty good. See, the wastegates are pretty symmetrical on both sides. You'll notice in the time-lapse video I put gussets on these wastegates. I put double bottom and top gussets. Well, I did that backwards. Top and bottom gussets on every wastegate tube that I do now. For a couple years I didn't do this, and I got lucky and didn't have any cracking problems. But as we're working on faster and faster cars that are seeing a lot more abuse and pushing these setups a lot further, there's a lot more heat getting in the pipes. And that's what I'll show you on another video I'm going to upload here pretty soon. We're going to really talk about that, because I've seen some stuff I ain't never seen before here lately. But double gussets help support the weight of the gate, because this wastegate right here, this ProGate 60, just like it is right now in my hand with no clamps, no flanges on it or anything, is nearly 4 pounds. You hang that off of a hot piece of pipe. Just imagine heating something up with a torch and hanging on it. Well, like you're going to bend a piece of tube, and you've got it clamped in the vise, and you've got the torch on it, heating it cherry red, and you're hanging on it, and it's stiff and it's not bending, and then when it turns red, it just kind of collapses in your hand. Well, this is what stainless does when it gets that hot. If you've not got things supported, no, it's probably not going to blow out or anything like that, but it's going to get so hot it's going to almost glow. You've seen them engine dyno videos where they have the turbo setups and they're doing pull after pull and the header is glowing red. Well, this is nearly what some of these setups see if they're being pushed hard enough with the back pressure and stuff. So you want to make sure to support your wastegates with gussets all you can. And I usually, this is 14 gauge flat stock that I've got over there. I usually cut a little triangle and run it all the way up to the back of the flange nearly, if I can, bottom and top. So that's what I've done here. So now we're good to put it back on the car, and it shouldn't have to come back off at this point. It should, because we're done with everything on it. So let's put it back on the car. Everything's back on the car, and fortunately for me and them, we don't have to remake the dump pipes, because the ones they brought work out perfect. Look about the same on both sides, so we're gonna let it ride. There's not many things that people bring that we get to reuse and they actually work out, but I think these are placed pretty good as far as the way it looks. See from the front, they look pretty much the same on both sides. This one is just a hair lower because I didn't want to, if we rolled it to the top edge of the pipe, it would be sticking out a lot compared to this one. So this is a happy compromise. So yeah, wastegates are done. Now on to probably the down pipes next. We need to get them done before we do the fuel cell. And then after that, well, besides mounting that little pump, we're pretty much done. Unless I'm forgetting something, which I don't think I am. So anyway, hope you enjoyed wastegate placement. This is the way I do on pretty much every setup. What I didn't video is I always take a sanding wheel or something if I can get in there. Not a sanding wheel, a flapper wheel like I showed you earlier in the video, and I run it down in the wastegate hole after I weld it, just to make sure there's not any kind of burrs or anything that I missed hanging down in there when I weld it, because sometimes you weld. I always purge, but sometimes when it's penetrating, it will leave a little, like a sharp point or something where it might have missed just a little spot of it. And I always run the flapper wheel in there and make sure I've got all them sharp points smoothed out, because when the heat hits those little tiny points, just imagine holding a welding filler rod out and holding a torch on the end of it. It'll get hot, and eventually that piece will break off, go through the turbo and everything. So that's just something to think about whenever you're not getting your hole smooth around there, because those little tiny pieces will get a lot hotter than the rest of it, and eventually they'll break off, tear something up. So anyway, next video will be just what I said, the downpipes. So see you then.